This is a really interesting one. Montana De La Rosa versus, I don't want to butcher this. This is a Portuguese name or a Brazilian name. Maeda Bueno Silva. You know what I'm saying? It's something interesting like that, right? But nonetheless, man, so we got a submission specialist versus another submission specialist who isn't really considered a submission specialist. So Montana De La Rosa, right? She has no knockouts on her record, but she got 8 submissions and 3 decisions. Bueno Silva, 5 submissions, 1 decision, 1 knockout, right? So we already know what the path to victory is for both of these fighters. Nonetheless, I want to point something out to you, and this is about the conversation that we had. I believe it was in the post show, or whatever the case may be. It was when we were recapping the Kunitskaya versus Vaeda fight, right? So Buena Silva, she's kind of in that Charles Rosa camp where she'll just accept guard. She'll be on her back. She'll accept guard so she can go and try to hunt for submissions, right? And while that's beautiful, we're starting to see, right, that you can't always put yourself in that spot and not really do anything effective. And the wrestlers or the people with the good top control, you know what I'm saying? They might be able to edge that one out. So I want to know, what are your thoughts, man? Montana De La Rosa has a knack for taking her opponents back. She does it almost every time. And she did it against the one common opponent that they do have in their last 5, which is Romero Bojela, right? So Bueno Silva, she submitted her in the first round with an armbar. Beautiful. Montana De La Rosa, it was a decision, but she was taking her back the whole time, man. She had her in some tight, tricky spots. So just what are your thoughts on the optics, man? We keep going back to this conversation of the optics of the fight. Yes, you might have incredible Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but if you're on your back the whole fight, how can you win? So what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's in Nevada, so it's still going to be the same judges we saw last week, where they're doing a little bit more of a different style of judging than we've seen in the past. And I think with 2 submission-oriented wrestlers, it's going to be weird to see which one does actually land up on the back, because like you said, Montana De La Rosa likes to take the people's back but still end up on the mat.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Mayra Bueno Silva. You saw in her last match against Borea. She was totally fine with throwing up triangle, armbar, triangle, armbar, yep. Triangle, armbar. And literally Borea literally just didn't know what was going on, or was okay with just having her arm there. It was weird to see. And I really don't expect fighters to start doing that even more going forward, with seeing how the judging has kind of started to progress and seeing what fights are actually winning the cards nowadays when they do go to the judges. But this one's a weird one to me, because I do think it's going to be very submission oriented. But it's weird when you have 2 crazy Brazilian jiu-jitsu specialists, because it's almost, instead of who's going to get the top, who's going to get the bottom. It's a weird transition to think. What do you think?
Well, I think that one thing could happen that no one is anticipating, and it happens time to time when you get 2 big knockout punchers or submission artists, and I think that they could avoid the ground altogether in this one. It totally could happen. Now, the difference is that Montana De La Rosa, she's a little more tentative, and she's been a little too tentative in the past in terms of her striking, where she just doesn't let her hands go, man. She times it, she feints, moves all around the octagon, but she just don't let the hands go, or she doesn't go up to grab the clinch and start doing some of them, the ground and pound things of that nature, right? Now, Buena Silva, she's one of those fighters, like we always talk about, who she's so confident in her jiu-jitsu, she'll walk you completely down because she doesn't care. Take me down, that's fine. It doesn't matter. It's like Gilbert Burns, but a female version of it. Obviously not quite as high level, but nonetheless, man, it was interesting to me because I think that she has big wins, man. She has a win over Jillian Robertson and Romero Barella, and that's not small potatoes whatsoever, man. So it just makes me wonder, because Montana De La Rosa is clearly the more experienced fighter. You know what I mean? She has more UFC wins, more UFC fights, more fights just in general. But the big thing that comes down to me is the decisions, right? Bueno Silva, if it goes 3 rounds, she's only had 1 decision win in the past before. So that's kind of the thing. I think Montana De La Rosa will be able to defend the submissions and get it to where it's basically just a point battle. And, may the best man or woman win. You know what I'm saying? So I guess the last thing that I got on this is that Bueno Silva has a beautiful right cross, left hook combination. And if Montana De La Rosa doesn't watch out for that, I could see a knockout happening here, man. Because Bueno Silva's hands are sharp, you know what I'm saying? And I think that if Montana De La Rosa, she worries a little bit too much about the submissions, something, might be waking up off the canvas. You never know, you know what I'm saying? But give me your pick and why.
One of my biggest critiques to Montana De La Rosa is she's so jiu-jitsu oriented that she's looking for an ankle pick, almost like she's looking for a jab.
Yeah.
And that was one of her biggest things against her last opponent, where she would literally just, instead of throwing out the jab, she'd throw out an ankle pick and leave her hand down there so she'd get punched. It literally led to a big hole, and I'm expecting her to hopefully fix that, because, like you said, Bueno Silva's striking is very, very sharp. Now, personally, for me, I do think it's going to be a lot of mix-up, a lot of rolling around in the jiu-jitsu, and I do think that De La Rosa has too much in the tool belt, and she'll outclass Bueno Silva for 15 minutes. So I'm going De La Rosa by decision. Who you got?
Well, you know what, man? It's hard when you're talking about two submission artists. It's really hard to pick against someone coming out of shoot the box, especially when you're trained by Diego Lima. Very, very hard to pick against someone like that. But nonetheless, man, I agree with you. I think Montana De La Rosa, I think her submission defense is going to be just good enough to be able to stop the submissions from happening. And this is just my thing, the optics, like I was saying earlier. I envision this fight happening like this if it does go to the ground. Bueno Silva is trying to lock up arm bars, triangles, whatever the case may be, on her back. Montana De La Rosa is going to defend the arm bars and the submissions and everything like that, and she's going to be on top of her for more or less 3 rounds. And it's going to be hard for the judges to not give her the fight. That's the whole point. No matter whether you're a BJJ guy and you go to, Abu Dhabi Combat Club and you're just watching all day long, and then you see this, you're like, no, of course you won. It doesn't matter because the judges aren't going to judge it like that. So going off of that, yeah, Montana De La Rosa, I'm going a decision win, man. Add to that collection. She could finally go 500 on her decisions because she's lost one more decision than she's won so far. But